not where you are. So it's a very strange world that we're in that way. But we all feel, I think, that local committees are very helpful and personable. Standards must preserve uniqueness. This is a key point for many folks. And that Tama Sobel said very, very eloquently at the end that as we go forward with any discussion of representation, self-representation, self-definition, self-regulation, if we want to beat the various governmental agencies to what is starting to happen in places like Texas and Kentucky and Illinois and so on, it's best to have an experimental attitude. And that invokes a lot of patience and also the understanding that we really don't know what our results are, and we're going to find out because we hang out together, not because anybody particularly has an answer. So we thought that was very helpful. And then we also scripted out a narrative arc for governance. If such a regulatory, self-regulatory body was to come into play, and it was personable, it fosters a sense of community, it created greater professionalism, it created trans lineage linkages and so on. If that's kind of thing is what we're interested in forming, what's the story of how it would come to be? And we figured out that it would start with dialogue, which is what we're doing now. We might be here for 5 years, right? And hopefully you'll keep coming for the tea. Number 2 would be public education, not only of public education, first of all, of the constituency of yoga, right? And then secondly, public education of the general public, what we might say, our market base as to how we are self-regulating, how we are invoking integrity, how we are creating standards by which we can ensure public safety for starters. Okay, so public education would be the next thing. The third thing, as you can see, we're kind of like becoming a little bit more technical. The third thing is we probably need an ombudsman or some position like an ombud place position. And this is what a strange word. And the ombudsman position, ombudsperson position, is really about the negotiation of disputes within a civically organized community that might have even like, I don't know, trade union kind of implications to it. But in other words, we don't generally have any method for publicly, well, not publicly, but responsibly, culture-wide resolving disputes. All right, whether somebody is engaged in some sort of unethical teacher-student activity, or whether a studio is fleecing their teachers, or whatever somebody within yoga has to complain about, where is their forum for redress? Okay, we thought that would be a very powerful part of the story of self-governance. And then number 4 is finally discuss what standards we share. Okay, and then we just have to total up the years involved in this and see how much patience is required. But that's what we came up with last meeting, and we couldn't sleep the night after because we were so pleased with all of the feedback that and all of the participation that had taken place, and we were quite pleased as a general platform took shape. So that's where we're at. So at this point, we've got our microphones going, and what I'd like to do is invite you to comment first of all on, and many of you weren't here last month. And maybe some of you, this is the first time you've seen this list. So that's great. Go ahead and give fresh comments on what has been established so far. But we also want you to feel free enough to bring up other issues, other thoughts, and specifically if there were thoughts or feelings that you had after the previous meeting, please share them. Was there some way that you began thinking about your participation within yoga as a culture, as a community, a little bit differently in light of this kind of open discussion? We hope that that's the case. If it was more irritating than anything else, we'd like to hear that as well. I mean, we really want anything and everything as part of our dialogue process. So, I have a microphone in my hand, and I don't want it anymore, so I'm going to see if anybody'd like to comment first. Hello, Christian. All right. Joy.
Hi, I'm Joy Dorsey. I'm the general manager at the Downward Dog Yoga Center. And I was here for the last meeting, and I think that there was some good things that came out of it. And so there's a couple of things for me that I would like to share. One is that I went back and I thought about our own program, right? And I'm just thinking about, like, are we, and it's twofold. One is that we want to make sure that people are out there who are teaching yoga in a way that's safe, and that's always has been our aim anyways. And two, it's sort of like we don't want anybody graduating from our program and going out there with our certificate, kind of like showing it around and then not representing us properly, kind of thing. So we have decided actually to enforce a few more things. An examination at the end of like we've always had requirements, and as I said last time, which was that, I have a stack full of certificates at the studio because people have not completed their requirements yet, and so they don't get their certificate. But now we've added on something else, a practicum where they would actually have to, be evaluated in front of a senior teacher. They have to pass the evaluation, and if they do not pass the evaluation, then, there's going to be more requirements, and you come back after a certain time and that kind of thing, right? And so it's just making sure that people are putting in the time, that they're actually doing what we want them to do. And then the other part about it is that, just sort of reinforcing this feeling that we don't want a third party coming in and telling us how to run our program. And we feel very strongly about that. And so we think it's really important that we have integrity in what we do, so that nobody can come in and say to us, you're doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. And so we feel that as long as that we're doing it, it doesn't matter if a third party eventually, whether it's the government, comes in and says, because we're not doing anything wrong. If anything, we're probably, I think, trying to be over and above the standards. And that's what I think is really important. And so, just looking at some of the things that were here, I think they're all really great ideas, and I think that people, hearing them and implementing them in what they're doing in their own programs is really important.
So can I just ask, so because were any of these changes on board before, can you give Joy that other microphone? Were any of these slated changes sort of on the schedule before this meeting, or did the meeting actually stimulate a lot of discussion at the studio?
No, it wasn't the meeting.
Okay.
It was, like, in my mind,
yeah.
It stimulated some stuff in my mind about, like, yeah, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing,
yeah.
right? Like, I do want to make sure that we're having an examination. We're still going to let people into the program with, we're going to let people at different levels into the program, mm-hmm. right? And we're still, going to decide how many people we want to have in our program. It's more about, because it's about personal development as well. People come in at different stages, and I like, who's to say who's more advanced than somebody else? Because just because somebody can't do a posture doesn't mean that they don't know anything about yoga, right? So it's becomes a very difficult thing to judge on, like, who can come in and who can't. And then also the same for the evaluation. And so it has to be sort of specific, and we're going to decide about what we think is important on sending people out there. One problem I do see is that most studios do not ask for a certificate when somebody comes to teach, They say, I did downward dog teacher training, and they go, okay, you're hired. But nobody actually says, can I see your certificate? So that is something that could be, and now for us, it's different because we don't hire anybody who hasn't done our teacher training. So we don't need to ask for a certificate, right? They have to have practiced with us for years and have been a part of our community. But I know in other cases, people go out and they do just, you know.
But just to return, a lot of these things were on the back burner for you guys.
Well, it's not as that it's on the back burner so much. It's been there all the time. You know, like I know for Ron, for example, you know, he's always thought that it's really important, you know. That
I guess what I'm interested in is does this dynamic becoming public begin to just simply change studio culture as it is?
It could.
Okay.
I think that
because if that's what happens, I think probably this is a positive thing. And then the question would be, is that going to be enough? Is it going to create a coherent enough vocation, profession, whatever? But that's a very interesting movement, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I just want to say one other thing about sort of like yoga business, yoga community and stuff, right? Yoga is a business as much as it is a personal practice and a spiritual practice. It has become a business. Nobody can deny that, you know? And what we're seeing more and more is that the people who are actually attending yoga, they want surface yoga. Like, people want to come in, they want to practice for an hour, they want to sweat, they want to feel like they did something. This is what yoga is sort of becoming. I don't necessarily agree with it and don't necessarily think that it's right, but it's what it's becoming. And so in the confines of a studio running a business and staying afloat, to a certain extent, you have to a little bit go with what the business is. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a little bit on both sides where it's like, yes, we have to have integrity and do what we believe in, and yet it's like there's a lot of great teachers out there nowadays, you know? People are going to studios for convenience. They're not traveling long distance because they're searching for one teacher, you know, like they have passport to Toronto so they can go and try a million studios, and they, you know, like there's all of these different things that sort of, it's spreading it out. It's getting bigger. So that's just a point I wanted to make.
Thanks, Troy.
Oh, my name is Chadda Khannam. I'm a new kid in the block. I was just going to follow up on the thread that Joyce, is it? Joy. On the thread, in the sense that a person like me I've never been a teacher. My life ambition is to earn the right, adhikar, to be called a student of my teacher. If I can do that in my lifetime, that would be a major accomplishment. So the traditions, there's a news item this morning about Lululemon having $8, 19% gain in the stock, the shares price of the Lululemon. It's $1 billion business. But there's a comment made on the 99 on CBC. Somebody was saying that I'm very skeptical of this 20% rise in Lululemon's stock or share, because what will happen if the fad runs out? This is about a tradition that's been there for 5,000 years. The rishis will be smiling with benign neglect or benign indulgence that be in the profession of yoga, but don't make it a profession. Be in the business of yoga, but don't make it a business. One can be a painter, a housewife, a medical doctor, a banker, or whatever. And if you notice these equivalents of yoga, and I don't mean to spend too much of time, the Qigong, the martial arts in China,